Howdy folks, I'm Taylor, aka Off-Brand Ginger, and today I'm going to help you understand Dungeons & Dragons, aka D&D. Now, D&D has existed in various forms since 1974, but recently it's enjoyed a resurgence of popularity, due in large part to its depiction in popular culture, like Stranger Things. D&D isn't just for nerds in basements anymore. More and more frequently, general society is recognizing that, hey, this is just a really fun game. Luckily for us all, this latest version of D&D, 5th edition, is more accessible to new players than ever. Unfortunately, Wizards of the Coast, the creators and maintainers of official D&D content, aren't very good at making it seem simple. After all, this easily accessible PDF of the quote-unquote simplified rules of D&D is still 180 pages long. If you're only a little curious in D&D, or if you're being dragged into this by your friends, or if you're a rational human being, you probably don't want to read 180 pages of what is essentially fantasy legalese. Don't worry though, I'm here to help you out. In this video, I'm going to cover the true basics of D&D. That is, how exactly do you play it, and what the heck is going on with all that dice? Intrinsic to D&D, and every role-playing game, is the DM, or Dungeon Master, who creates a fantastical world for you and your friends to enjoy. Through the power of their words, you can be transported to mystical realms with strange peoples and horrifying monsters. In order to interact with this world, you're going to need to create a character. Different characters, like people in real life, have different skills and backgrounds. The character creation process can seem complicated, but being able to project yourself into a fantastical wizard or fighter is at the core of what makes D&D fun. That's not what we're going to cover right now, though. In D&D, there's three main ways you're going to be interacting with the world that your DM created: social interaction, exploration, and combat. Social interaction is at the core of the role-playing experience. How does your character interact with the other characters that your friends created? How do they interact with non-player characters, or NPCs, that the DM creates? Exploration allows you to truly appreciate the world that your DM created. Whether you're plunging through a dungeon or navigating the complex political system of a modern-day world, exploration will lead your character through the towns, continents, and even worlds that your DM worked so hard to create. Last, but certainly not least, is combat. Along with the world and all the people in it, your DM will also create villains and ferocious monsters that your characters will need to stand against. After all, that's what makes a hero. Different characters will approach combat differently, but truly, your imagination is the limit. However, in D&D, just like in real life, your character is not always going to be successful. Frankly, the game wouldn't be half as interesting if you always won. In order to simulate that chance of failure, we use dice. When you want your character to do something in the world, whether it's lying to a city guard or throwing an axe at an ogre, tell your DM that's what you want to do. In their heads, the DM will set a certain difficulty. The more difficult the task, the more unlikely it is that your character will be successful. However, some characters are better at some things than others. For example, if you have a very strong character who is trying to break down a door, you have a much higher chance of being successful. If your character is weak, it's going to be much harder. In order to simulate that, D&D has modifiers. That is, a certain number that you will add to the dice roll. Or, if your character is particularly unskilled at a certain ability, you may even have to subtract a number from the dice. Now, you may be thinking, Taylor, this is all very well and good, but what about the dice? I've seen the dice in D&D, and there's a ton of them, and they're all in different shapes. What does it all mean? Don't worry. It's not as complicated as it seems. In D&D, and most dice-based games, we refer to the dice as D, followed by however many sides the dice has. For example, this pyramid-shaped dice with 4 sides is a D4. Now I know 6 dice seems like a lot, but usually you won't use most of these dice. The really important one is a D20. This is the dice that you're going to be rolling most frequently in order to see whether or not your character is successful. So let's go back to the scenario of a character trying to break down a door. You tell your DM that your character, A strong half-orc is going to kick down the door. Because you're strong, you're going to be able to add a certain modifier. Let's say +5 to whatever number you roll. You roll and congrats, it's a 20. You can still add your +5 to this 20 to get a total of 25, but it probably won't be necessary. A natural 20 is almost always an automatic success. That door is done for. Now, say you have a different scenario. Instead of breaking down the door, you want to sneak into the house. Your character isn't very stealthy. You'll only get to add 1 to whatever you roll. You roll and... oh no, you rolled a 1, which is an automatic failure. Even adding your modifier, you're done for. The city guard catches you immediately. Now, don't worry. Failure is as much a part of the game as success is. And hey, maybe you'll meet an interesting NPC in the dungeons that will start a whole new adventure. Really, that's it. With only your imagination, some dice, and some good friends, you can explore a fantasy world, meet interesting characters, and fight fearsome beasts using the wonderful system of Dungeons & Dragons. Have fun, and remember to thank your DM for all their hard work. I'm Taylor, aka Off-Brand Ginger, and that's all, folks.